Eros' Lost Arrow. Once upon a time, under the golden lights of Olympus, the god of love and desire Eros possessed a magical arrow. This arrow, when piercing a heart, awakened the purest and deepest emotions, binding souls together for eternity. But one day, by a twist of fate, Eros lost his enchanted arrow. That morning, as he awoke upon pink-hued clouds, Eros realized that his golden quiver was incomplete. A wave of panic surged through him. Losing this arrow means losing love itself, he thought. If he failed to retrieve it, love in the mortal world would wither, and hearts would remain isolated, unable to find one another. Determined, Eros descended from the highest heavens to the earth below. His first stop was the temple of his mother, Aphrodite, hoping she could offer some guidance. But Aphrodite only shook her head. "My son, love sometimes appears lost, but it is always hidden somewhere. Perhaps the arrow is waiting for its true owner." Reflecting on his mother's wisdom, Eros continued his search across the world. He scoured the mountains and fields of flowers. He stood at the edges of the seas, asking the waves. He listened to the whispering wind and the rustling leaves, hoping to hear the arrow's call. But still, it remained missing. Days passed, and as Eros wandered through a quiet forest, he stumbled upon a small cottage. There, living alone, was a young woman whose eyes held an unusual glow. Her name was Elara, and the moment Eros saw her, he sensed something different. An essence of love radiated from within her. As he approached, he felt his own heart quicken. "Oh, beautiful god, why do you look so troubled?" Elara asked, noticing the sorrow in his gaze. "I have lost my enchanted arrow," Eros replied. "Without it, love may disappear from the world." Elara smiled gently, closed her eyes, and placed her hand over her heart. "Perhaps what you seek is not so far away," she whispered. Then, opening her palm, she revealed the missing arrow, shimmering with a golden glow. Eros stepped back in shock. "How is this possible?" Elara met his gaze with warmth. "Maybe true love was hidden within someone's heart all along. Maybe you were searching outside when you should have been looking within." At that moment, realization dawned upon Eros. Love did not exist solely in enchanted arrows but thrived in the light carried within hearts. The magical arrow belonged not in the hands of a god, but within the soul of a mortal who held the purest form of love. Eros looked at Elara with deep admiration. "You, a mere mortal, understand the essence of love better than even I do. Tell me, how do you carry such a great light within you?" Elara smiled softly. "Love is invisible, yet it can be felt. Sometimes, the greatest magic lies in the emotions we nurture inside. True love is not born from an enchanted arrow, but from the bond that grows within us." Her words unlocked something new in Eros's soul. From that moment on, he understood that love could not simply be bestowed by a god. It had to bloom within each heart. He and Elara spent long hours in the forest, discussing the mysteries of love. That night, the stars shone brighter than even those upon Olympus. Eros was grateful to have found his lost arrow, but more importantly, he now understood that love's greatest power came from within. The pure love in Elara's heart was enough to illuminate all the love in the world. The next morning, Eros returned to the cottage to thank Elara, but she was nowhere to be found. In the distance, a faint laughter echoed through the forest, sending a shiver down his spine. Looking around, he saw a fleeting silhouette of Elara glowing under the moonlight. She was more than a mere mortal. Perhaps she was a reflection of fate itself. Elara smiled one last time before disappearing into the trees. Eros tried to follow her, but even her footprints had vanished. Yet, her presence lingered in his heart like an eternal light. But this was not the end of the story. Eros returned to Olympus and sought the help of the gods to find her again. Even Zeus found the mystery of this mortal woman intriguing. Hermes descended to the earth to track her, but she was nowhere to be found. "She exists only for those who truly understand love," Hermes reported. 4 years, Eros searched for her. He traveled across the lands, climbed the highest mountains, and dove into the depths of the oceans. Everywhere he went, he encountered love stories. tales of devotion, sacrifice, and passion. And every time, Elara's words echoed in his mind. True love is invisible, yet it can be felt. At last, Eros accepted that his search had no end. Perhaps Elara would live on only in his heart. And perhaps, the true power of love was not in finding someone, but in understanding and nurturing it. From that day forward, Eros no longer used his arrows merely to ignite love. Instead, he inspired mortals to discover love within themselves. Love did not need a magical arrow to exist. It thrived in the depths of every heart willing to embrace it. And so, the legend of Eros's lost arrow became more than just a myth. It became a symbol of love's eternal nature. Who knows? Perhaps Elara still roams the forest, waiting for someone who truly understands love to find her. Or maybe, a piece of Elara lives within the heart of everyone who believes in the power of love.